Hey, welcome to Pushing 40-Bit. We're back. This is Season 2. Thanks for joining us.
We've made it through an entire season.
That's right. We're mixing things up a little bit. Not only do we have a massive menagerie of centerpieces.
The funny thing is, it was like, normally when we're doing our centerpiece, we're like, well, what fits with the game, and we're trying to like make something work. This is like, we've got a pile of stuff off camera, of stuff we didn't use.
So much Star Wars.
Yeah, I need to buy you a bigger table, man. This is...
You can say we're fans of the series, of everything, and yeah, anyway.
I didn't know it made noises.
Oh, you bet.
Wow.
Yeah, so, I mean, this January was Jedi Fallen Order, so if you played along with us, great. It's a new game, so we realize it's more expensive. A lot of times we focus on some of the older ones, but, you know, got to play a new game every now and then. Especially when the industry decides to focus on a single-player game for once.
Shocked. I was shocked that that's what this was.
Well, and we played Titanfall 2 kind of in anticipation for this.
Right.
Because they're developed by the same people. And it did feel...
It felt very similar.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of influence. I'm glad we played Titanfall 2
I am
first.
too. Yeah. It was good to, like, as I was playing, kind of compare the two and think about it.
So,
Though, the downside of comparing the two was that Titanfall 2 was just so much crisper. And part of that's just that it's an older game. It's been baked longer, right? It's a less demanding game. But it did make me a little sad when you would do things that were so similar to what you did in Titanfall 2, and it just wasn't quite as crisp.
Yeah.
is that on VHS?
Yes. I've owned that since I was a little bitty teen. I don't know. I can't remember when my parents got it for me.
Yeah.
The original trilogy.
The
VHS.
unmolested trilogy.
And I'm also the proud owner of these Nintendo 64 guys up here. So
We're representing everything. We got
It was such a good game.
the X-Wing miniatures game, the board game, tabletop.
I wish I still had the Nintendo game though. I had Empire Strikes Back on NES, and
That was a great
that's
game.
lost
That was
to
a
time.
good
I
game.
don't remember who
Super
took
hard.
it.
They were infuriating.
Yeah.
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 Well, and there was a game-breaking bug where I got all the way to the end of that game, and I didn't have the lightsaber. Because I had missed it in that first level, but you could still beat everything with the blaster, but you can't beat Darth Vader without a lightsaber. And you're just stuck.
And that's a lesson to everyone, is you can't beat Darth Vader without a lightsaber.
It's true.
But maybe applies to this game, too.
Oh, hey, very nice. So yeah, so
Spoilers, straight up front, lots and lots
There
and
will
lots
be
of spoilers.
spoilers. Yeah, so I mean, just recent game. Here's how I played it. I didn't want to plunk down $60 for a game that was unproven, so I subscribed to EA Origin Premier for exactly 1 month. Played through the game and canceled. So I played the game for $15.
That's a good way to do it, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all.
For single-player games where you may or may not go back to it.
Yeah,
Sure.
I didn't see myself going back and playing it again. Sometimes we do, especially when we're doing it for the podcast.
Yeah.
But something this new, I'm like, I'm gonna be back for a few years, and then by the time I do want to go
Oh,
back,
yeah.
it'll be on sale.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I got it at 17% off, I think. So what? It was like 40-ish bucks, a little bit more than that. Which, sure, that's more than I spent on the average game since I'm, a skinflint and everybody knows it. But I did want to incentivize the industry, right? I want to be
Absolutely.
like, you know what? I'm going to throw money at this. I want you to keep doing this thing. It's rare. It's becoming increasingly rare.
Mm-hmm.
Keep making single-player campaign games.
I pre-ordered it, paid full price.
Attaboy.
And played in it, finished it within a week. And before we even decided we were playing
Sure.
this for the podcast, I
Mm-hmm.
was done with the game. So, yeah.
You resigned yourself to the fact that I would never buy a new game.
No, I figured we would eventually play it.
Sure.
I wasn't sure we would play it this soon.
Yeah.
But it was just something that I definitely
And
wanted to play.
It's a Star Wars property. You were
Exactly.
gonna play it.
Yeah.
Just like Cyberpunk 2077, I'm pre-ordered. I'm gonna play it the day it comes out. If we want to play it together, that's great. If not, too bad. I'm playing it anyway.
Yeah, and that is a fine policy to have.
So, speaking of the game a little bit, diving right in, I think it's appropriate.
Let us.
One of the best intros to a single-player game I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that too, that the genius of it is that they didn't have to tell you when the game was set, they showed you.
Yeah.
That you see all the Clone Wars stuff, Clone Wars era ships and droids and the Clone Trooper helmets in a big pile. You see all that stuff being destroyed and taken care of, and the Empire is the ones doing it.
Yeah.
And maybe this is my novice with the series. I haven't seen Clone Wars, and so I was like, this seems like it's about the Rebels time. And I said that a few times in my playthrough, and then eventually I'm like, okay, this is definitely with all the Inquisitors and stuff. Like 100%, this is the Star Wars Rebels time period.
I think specifically this is 5 years after Order 66.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Rebels starts 10 years after.
I'm not sure on the Rebels start time.
It's something like that.
Yeah.
So they're pretty close.
Yeah.
But wasn't it interesting to see the old Clone Wars Behemoth ships just getting scrapped, just garbage, just
Yeah.
torn apart? You're like, wow, just not too long ago. Like, no, when I say not too long ago, I'm thinking in the movies and the series and all that. It was like, that wasn't that long ago that the whole galaxy was in this giant wicked war, and now it's like, yeah, they won. Yeah. Here's the after effects of what happens when the war was over. Like, I've never seen a game explore that, of like, after the main action you've seen all these years, here's what happened after.
Yeah. It was I thought it was a very great way to start the game, and lots of showing you instead of just there wasn't a crawl with text that told you things. It just started and you saw it.
And the grimiest of all the video games, right? Like just grit and grime everywhere, and even that that song that comes in, right? It's I'm not going to try to imitate it because I'm going to offend all of Mongolia, but it was the Who, right? So the Who is this Mongolian throat singing heavy metal band. And it was a great intro because it sounds alien and totally different, right? But grimy and gritty. It just matched all the dirt everywhere, and the rain's coming down, but it's not cleaning anything. There's just rust and grime.
That was a real song?
Yeah. That's the band The Who.
That's The Who?
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought they made it for the game. Like, it's a great fitting game.
And Who is spelled H-U for anybody who wants to get into Mongolian heavy metal throat singing.
Interesting.
Wow.
No, that's a pre-existing band.
Edutainment.
Right on.
Tamara, my wife, had recently shown that to me. I was like, oh, that's an interesting band. Then I played the game. I'm like, wait a minute.
Wow. I doubt a lot of people picked up on that.
Yeah.
I sure didn't.
Yeah.
What do you think about the tutorial on how to play the game and how it was kind of led, like the first little bit to kind of teach you push X to jump, all that good stuff?
I liked it. And I like when they do those and actually tie it to the story. Like there's a reason for him crawling around and trying to get to a place.
And I get so tired of that whole, look at the lights.
Yeah,
Did that look normal to you?
We always make fun of that.
You know.
Yeah, it was nice that wasn't in there.
Yeah, this definitely felt like appropriate pacing of a tutorial. Like it was short enough, moved on, got it done.
And there were some pucker moments during the tutorial.
Oh yeah.
Like where you're kind of climbing on stuff and you'll slip. I was like,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Vertigo in games, I don't have, like, Vertigo in real life, but, like, man, I guess I'm also not dangling over massive abysses on a daily basis, right? Like, every now and again I climb up on the roof, but that's about it.
And then jump off the roof and wow, I'm getting old.
That's right, yeah.
Right.
Break toes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ripped from the headlines, huh?
Broken toe right now, super fun.
And not from a height.
No, I just slipped in the shower and, like, rammed into the side of the shower. Brilliant.
I feel like the last few injuries I've had have been in the shower. Like it's just like this is like an old man thing.
My house came equipped with the shower bars for old men.
Oh,
the ones that are like bolted in.
Yeah.
When I first bought the house, I was like, I hate these. These are the worst. And now I'm like, these aren't so bad.
I just need to put like some things at the bottom of the tab, but some grit and grime like they have at the beginning of Star Trek.
So, did you mouse, keyboard, controller? What did you use?
Yeah, I did mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, mouse, keyboard.
Controller.
Really?
It said at the start, this game is best played with a controller. So I said, okay.
I didn't believe him. I don't know. I've made that mistake in the past, right? I'm like, oh, it says that. I'm going to try it on the PC. And I'm almost always disappointed. There are very few games where I will prefer the controller to the PC controls.
I tried it and I tried going back and forth. There wasn't sensitivity settings either for mouse or for looks on the joysticks, I don't think. And so it felt like the joystick just felt way too slow, like looking. And the mouse you could at least
change your DPI.
Yeah. And it was, I don't know, it still felt faster and more reliable, I guess.
I only noticed one moment where it was like, oh, this was meant for a controller. And that was in one of the temples when you're having to force pull something and then force push it, right? So you have to like chuck it across the room, basically, right? So you pull these little candle things out of the wall and you chuck them across the room to get caught in the magnets. And you have to, you're walking. So usually you walk with your middle finger, right? That's W. And then you have to push your force ability, which is going to be, one of those three main fingers. And then you have to push the force ability next to it, which is one of those three main fingers. And like, oh, this is probably triggers.
See, I did push and pull were on my thumb buttons.
That's smart.
And so that made that really easy.
And I noticed in your playthrough that you changed dodge to left control. And I wish that I had done that. The only reason I didn't do that was because I was like, well, I'm still learning moves. I keep learning moves. Eventually, they're probably going to use all that. Let's just wait and see how it ends up.
Was that middle mouse?
It was Z, right?
Oh,
which again, if you're trying to dodge left, you use your ring finger to hit Z, and you use your ring finger to push left. So dodging left was almost impossible. I'd have to like slide my middle finger over and do this weird little chord. It was really bizarre.
And let's say there's a lot of dodging in this game.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna start with my first beef of the game.
Please.
When did we get goats that were lightsaber resistant?
That goat.
Every creature, every surface, everything in this game is lightsaber resistant.
How?
Yeah.
Like we watched in Phantom Menace where they basically just punched a hole in like a
They can't get through the blast doors.
Yeah, a Durasteel
Oh, yeah?
door.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hey, I'm a happy little goat, and I try to cut it, and it's like, no, it didn't do anything.
Yeah.
That bugged me both gameplay wise and lore wise.
Yeah, absolutely. I got super frustrated with that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna jive right into difficulty. I started out on Jedi Master because I'm a gamer. It's like this is for people that have played lots of games. I'm like, that's me.
You dear
Sign me
summer
up.
child.
Right? And I can't remember. That goat killed me like I don't know. It felt like 100 times. It was probably 15. But it just killed me and killed me and killed me. And so I ticked down the difficulty. And I can't remember
Jedi Knight.
if that was the first one that I ticked down or the second one I ticked down. But eventually I ended up on story mode because I was like, you know what? This is taking too long and I'm just dying repeatedly, which is brilliant content for all y'all. Right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure you just love just watching me die in the exact same way 30 times.
And I went to story mode as well.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. The lightsaber felt better. It felt when I cut through like hordes of stormtrooper, I was cutting through hordes
That's
of
true.
stormtroopers.
Yeah.
So I left it on normal,
Jedi Knight.
probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I struggled at the beginning, like a lot. Like I died a ton, but for some reason I was just like, I'm just gonna leave it here. I'm gonna stick with it. Eventually, it got like midpoint of the game. It got to the point where I was doing well, and I really enjoyed it. And by the end of the game, you feel really overpowered, and the enemies don't level with you. The game like allows you to be overpowered, and then it was super fun.
Sure, yeah.
Like the last few areas of the game were awesome, and I was like glad that I had left it on normal.
You're a Jedi Knight. You should be overpowered.
Yeah.
You should be like the
You're a
biggest
god
force.
among plebs, right?
Yeah.
You know? I love that. Yeah, the game allowed you to do that. You did have to learn things and level up, and it was difficult at first, but then it got to a point where it was great.
I also made the mistake of, while being on a high difficulty, going to Dathomir first. Because I'm like, you know what? I have a little more time this month. I'm going to do all the side stuff. Because I thought Dathomir was just like a side quest. Because it's like, oh, go to Zepho, right? I'm like, well, let's do the side quest. So I go to Dathomir and just got my butt handed to me repeatedly.
Even on normal, that still happened to me. So that was...
I was on not Grandmaster. I was on Master, right? And it was horrible.
Heck, I was
So
dying
took
in
it
story
down.
mode still,
Yeah.
every now and then.
Oh, especially on Dathomir.
Yeah.
When you go back, there was some rough stuff on
Dathomir
Dathomir.
was really tough. Even on when you could actually go there and do it, it was rough. But I couldn't remember if this was the case. Do you get the double bladed on Dathomir?
Yes, you do, and you can get it early if you want, right? So in
Right.
that first run, you can do it. So I watched some guy online that's just like, "Oh, sure, I can't kill these guys yet, but I can hop over them," and he just kept like running away, hopping as they're like chopping at him, and then every time he gets to a save point, hurry, heal up, chop, hop, 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 and then eventually he gets to where he can get the double bladed saber. And he's like, "Oh, now I've got this early." I was like, "Oh, that's probably smart." So I didn't do it.
I went super linear, so I didn't get the double bladed saber for a while. It was a good long while before I got it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
pretty much had
I didn't either because I gave up on Dathomir, right?
Oh,
like I
okay.
didn't. I just died and died and died and died and died, and eventually I'm like, "All right, off to Zepho."
Yeah, I got it and got to the point where you couldn't go anymore because you didn't have force jump yet. And so then you just have to leave anyway.
Yeah.
And that happened to me when I was at Kashyyyk. You go through kind of a little bit at the start, and then to go through, you have to have force pull to bring a bridge down.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, well, how do I do?
I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Kashyyyk.
Yeah,
Because
there's quite a few Y's in there. Which, the poor Wookiees that get enslaved or entrapped or like every show, like the Wookiees are always the cannon fodder of the universe. And they're giant hairy beasts. You would think the humans would get enslaved first, or like the Ewoks.
I also felt like they got treated as second-class citizens by the developers. Like, they weren't fully rendered.
No, they were
They were ugly.
they were
Yeah.
horrible.
They were the worst thing in the game. I was like, how long did you spend on a sleeg? And then the Wookiee doesn't get, like, full rendering? It was weird.
Well, and there's something, too, about Chewbacca just wearing a bandolier thing. Like, that adds so much to,
Yeah.
like, cover him that when you see a Wookiee like wearing nothing, it's really off-putting.
You're like, that Wookiee's naked.
Well,
Yeah.
and then the Wookiees that weren't naked, they just like had escaped, right? And they all had like slave bands around their necks,
yeah.
and they're like, we'll just leave these here.
Yeah,
I'm like,
they all kept him on.
yeah, you're gonna have your heads all like explode at some point when those timers detonate.
Yeah,
There's like
yeah.
some dead man switch, and there's gonna be Wookiee decapitation left and right.
And then the Wookiees weren't subtitled at all.
Yeah, they always had
Oh,
like
yeah.
some friend that
They
would
have a
explain
friend
it,
that would
right?
say something,
Yeah, yeah.
But I felt like the start of the Star Wars holiday special where you spend 30 minutes listening to Wookiees just go,
Did you say the Star Wars holiday special?
oh,
Yes,
gross.
we did watch this movie together. I forced them to watch it. That was 2 Christmases ago, I think, and it is
Was it that
glorious.
long ago?
It definitely wasn't this Christmas.
Yeah, must have been.
I couldn't remember that it was even a Christmas.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking it was in like.
No, I wouldn't subject this to you
Last
at
summer.
any time other than
Why,
Christmas.
why did we watch that
So,
in like
you know,
July?
that's
Yeah,
Star Wars holiday special.
done.
The poor Wookiees.
Poor Wookiees.
Yeah. So let's talk about characters a little bit.
Okay.
The greatest side character ever to grace a Star Wars property.
I hope you say who I think you're going to say.
I can't pronounce his name, but Greez. How do you say it?
Oh,
Greez?
okay.
Yeah.
That was the best side Star Wars character I've ever had.
He is
He was good.
so
yeah.
cranky, so hilarious.
Yes.
Like, everything he said was gold.
Yeah.
I
Now,
loved him.
if he was in it instead of Jar Jar Binks in the first prequels,
Yeah.
it would have saved the prequel
Oh
trilogy.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
He was hilarious because
Yeah.
he was crotchety and he had
Yes.
a dark backstory that it alluded to.
Yeah.
And
Well, I love that just comes as a surprise suddenly in the middle of the game. You're like, wait, what? Like, he has gambling debts and they're after him and
Yeah.
you get captured because of that?
Yeah.
And I think one of my favorite scenes in the game is you're escaping from the train and you jump onto the Mantis and you're sitting there and your saber's lit. Like in the cockpit, still just whomp.
Why?
And Grease goes, put that down.
Yeah. Turn
Yeah.
that off. You're going to cut someone's arm off.
Yeah, it was just
And I have
hilarious.
4 of them.
And then another nitpicky point: did either of you notice that Grease was rendered in much higher fidelity than Seer Junda?
Yeah.
Why? I don't understand.
Seer Junda did not look good.
She looked better in the flashback. In the flashback, like,
Yes.
they spent more time rendering the flashback version of her than the new version. It was
I
weird.
didn't notice.
And I'd have to say on the top of Seer Junda, I didn't know that was her last name, Seer,
Yeah.
probably one of my least favorite people in all of the Star Wars universe.
I thought she had an interesting story. I
Yeah.
mean, it wasn't a heroic story necessarily, but
Okay.
it was an interesting story, a different story.
Okay, let's talk spoilers again. Sorry, spoiler warning again.
Forever.
It's gonna happen.
Yes.
Okay, so she said she cut herself off from the Force.
Yeah.
Right.
And then suddenly you go to the last base, she gets an Inquisitor saber, and she's badass Jedi now.
Well, I think.
Do you just plug back in like a freaking plug? You're like, oh, I'm gonna plug back into the Force.
Luke does that in Last Jedi. Right?
But he never cut himself off from the Force,
Yeah, he
did he?
did.
Sure.
Is that was
Yeah.
implied while he was there?
But like, I don't know. I hadn't played.
Is it an on-off switch?
I hadn't played
Yeah.
anything on the regular Nintendo. This is totally equivalent to the Force for like a decade. I hopped back in and I was just Super Marioing it up. So some things it's like riding a bicycle.
So we spent
decapitating
okay.
people.
So as generic pants Jedi, as he was the most generic character.
The
out of
main
all of it.
character?
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't super in love with the character. I thought the overall story was great, but the main character was he was.
Everyone
not
else was
good.
so much more fleshed out than him.
Yeah.
He was generic scrapyard dog number 2.
I liked his backstory a lot. I thought the backstory was good, and all of the flashback sequences I thought were great. And
Fantastic.
were an
I do
excellent
too.
part of the story.
Well-
but yeah, where he
well-
kind of ended up was a little bit generic. Project yourself here.
I
right?
think they needed to spend more time, like explaining that he was a Padawan and not fully trained. Like he didn't finish his training.
Right.
Like they did almost make it seem like he could, or he already knew everything before and just hadn't used it in a long time.
See,
Yeah.
and he had to go through the entire game having flashbacks, remembering, and Seer just got hers back.
Sure.
Yeah.
I spent an entire
Again-
game learning my skills again.
And see, I think it makes sense if you say, well, that was because he was a Padawan and didn't actually fully learn it. He maybe used his abilities like once or twice in training, and
she was a
never
full-fledged knight?
She was like actually in combat, constantly.
Oh yeah,
using
she was training Padawans. I mean,
Sure.
she was
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Kanan Jarrus from the Rebel series was not fully trained.
No.
Yeah,
and he seems
better.
pretty darn powerful.
Yeah.
Nitpicky things, and
True.
again, like even Star Wars nerd here, based on this, it was a little nitpicky. I thought he was a very generic, non-fleshed out character.
I
Again,
agree with that.
the side characters were so much better.
Yeah.
The droid was fantastic.
Yeah.
I really liked Marin too. Like she was super interesting. The Night Sister.
Yeah,
girl.
super interesting.
I really liked her.
Even Malicos was a fairly interesting character. Not
Khal
super fleshed out.
Drogo of the.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Was that the Deathly Hollows on his chest?
It was
Sure,
something. It was.
So was his story? He crashed there, right? And then couldn't. And the Jedi kind of just abandoned him, or was it like
I thought he
crashed there-
escaped there, like to get away from everything
Yeah, I
of all
think
the
he
crap
was.
going on.
I think he was like a fallen Jedi.
So
first.
he was fallen before he landed.
I think so.
And then he like hoodwinked them to like learn their magics or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I got that.
and
Yeah.
cut off all the Darth Maul horns and wear them as trophies.
Which
Yeah.
I had to kill like 7 or 8 Darth Maul looking dudes to go, oh hey, this probably is Darth Maul's home planet.
Yeah, I had no clue
I
until.
remember that
Yeah.
from Clone Wars because those were some of my favorite things. Was that planet and Asajj Ventress and like all the like the magic stuff and Darth Maul coming back and so
It was-
I was happy like when it showed you could go to Dathomir. I was like, oh yes, like I love Dathomir and all
See,
that stuff.
I didn't even know that Darth Maul was alive until I did some research for this game. I was like, what? He's still alive? He was chopped in half. Like,
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I'm just gonna call that a George Lucasism. It was weird and it just happened.
Maybe it was him.
That's things I do when things happen in lore that I can't quite understand. It's like, oh, it's pod racing. It doesn't make sense. It's just cool.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I love that game. I can't know which.
Racing
Is
is
it this
really
side? I can't tell, but it's one of those.
No, it's over here.
Okay.
That's Rogue Squadron, which is far
Alright.
superior to pod racer.
Oh, Rogue Squadron,
Well,
that was awesome.
Rogue Squadron never worked though. Like the game never ran.
It did.
It died so
Okay,
much.
peasant PC. It always worked on mine.
It died even on the Nintendo 64.
Okay, peasant console.
We had it on 64, and I don't remember having problems with it.
Did you? Oh, you maybe had the expansion pack. So you had to have like the expansion,
Oh, we did,
like
they
extra
not-
RAM.
Do not send those to Idaho. It's like, whoa. We won't sell any of those in Idaho. Just keep them going to Utah.
There was only like 4 Nintendo 64s up there that I like knew about. Like that's how few people had them. But
Probably.
yeah,
Anyway, God, we could just sit and talk about Star Wars, and then we'd be
know.
one of a billion podcasts that talk about Star
this game.
Wars, right?
Should we say more about the plot itself?
yes, which I think is the strong point of this game. Like the gameplay was fun, but I felt this game was more about the story and movie than it was about the game, which isn't always a bad thing.
I will respectfully disagree.
Okay.
I thought the gameplay was. They had some awesome stuff from Titanfall 2 that they said, we can make a Star Wars property really easy out of this, and we've learned a lot of great lessons. And I thought the story was really weak.
So
Super weak.
So you're saying that you didn't just mash X most of the time, Mr. Controller?
No,
Like-
I didn't.
Really?
By and large, I bet 60 to 70% of my kills were force kills.
Well, sure, but like, so in Darksiders, I didn't just mash X. I used probably 4 or 5 attacks regularly, right? And I would say that's about what I did here, right?
About the same.
I mostly pushed people off the edges, stabbed them,
That's great.
pulled them close to stab them, or did like a slash move, right?
Or-
like,
Oh, I countered like almost people.
That's most what.
Yeah.
That's almost how you had to play the game.
until you switch to story mode.
Yeah, and then you.
And I was like, die off a cliff.
But I mean, it was the cool thing for me is when the lightsaber ignited, and if you had a decent set of headphones and nifty setup, it felt powerful. It was like, and it hit hard. You're like,
Yeah.
Sound
For
design
once.
the whole game is great.
the lightsaber sounded like a powerful weapon.
Yeah.
We've had so many Star Wars games. The Lego ones don't count, obviously, but even in like Battlefronts, even the original Battlefronts, where it was just like a whom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, those. Well, maybe we'll get to this. That we did also kind of play Battlefront 2. When you play as Luke, I was like, this is way less fun. than
Yeah,
Jedi
absolutely.
Fallen Order.
That's too
It's
Jedi
just-
Fallen Order like pulled the lightsaber combat off really well.
Yeah, it was kind of in every other Star Wars property. It's always like swish slash slice them in half. In this, it's like the lightsaber felt like a powerful, like mean weapon.
Yeah.
You know.
I also really liked the fact that the lighting on it was dynamic, not just in gameplay, but in cutscenes.
Yeah.
So when you toss your lightsaber to Marin and she turns it on, I didn't really think anything of it until I was watching somebody else's replay, just researching stuff, and they had a different color lightsaber to mine, and they turn it on, and the glow on her face is totally different. I was like, oh my gosh. Like a small little detail like that, but huge impact that they really just put in these tiny details.
So did you have the deluxe edition where you could change your color at the start?
Yeah.
I did too.
Well, it just gives you an orange one.
Oh yeah, you got orange, blue, and...
I think you have blue and green already, right?
And then orange is like the... Did you have orange?
The extra one.
I didn't have orange until the end when
Okay.
you do the kyber crystal, but I think I only had one color at the very beginning, but then you find your first station, your first like lightsaber station, and that's when I changed the color to like magenta or something, I think.
At the first one you could go
I didn't think...
I think you could go whatever ones you'd found so far, because you could find lightsaber colors. So I did it like...
Wait, of the hilt or of the blades?
Of the blades, I thought. Maybe. I could...
'Cause
My
I
memory's
couldn't change the
horrible, so...
blades. Well, you had the orange one from pre-ordering or whatever, but
Okay.
you couldn't change it to, magentas, or there was a yellow one, or like a different shade of blue.
The appropriate color was purple, though. I went straight to Windu. It was awesome.
Yeah, you couldn't do that until the very end when you actually rebuilt yours.
So I was magenta most of the game.
I wonder how. Unless you found something that I didn't.
I don't know. Because at the end, I chose...
Wait, what color's magenta?
It's like a purplish pink, but they call it magenta in the.
I didn't have that at the first. I had blue, green, and then my orange.
Yeah, I think I found it. Because did you guys not hunt for crates much?
I found every crate in the game, and I never had that.
Wow! I found every crate.
I did not find every crate, but I found most of them, I think.
I found crates if they were convenient.
I really liked exploring, and so I was like, I'm gonna find them all.
Yeah,
I would often backtrack to places.
Yeah, I liked the maps and how they weren't that big, but they were labyrinthian, right?
They're pretty big.
Some of them were pretty big.
Okay, like if you measure the volume of where you're running, it's basically you're going through gerbil tunnels, right?
Sure.
So the map really isn't that big. It has a large field because it's very scenic, but the amount that you can traverse is fairly small, right? Now it's long, right? And so you have to make sure like you'd get lost. But they did a really good job. Again, it's gerbil tunnels, right? They do a good job like twisting and you can't go up this part, you can only go down this part, and
which was Metroid. Like you played the Metroid games, right?
Yeah,
That's exactly how those are.
Yeah.
You're in a big.
I was going to ask how you guys felt about the map, like when
the map was a lifesaver. Without the map, I would have hated this game.
Yeah, for sure. But I've heard that that's some of the complaints is people didn't like or thought the map was confusing. Like they couldn't figure out where they were and how to traverse it. I didn't think that.
I really didn't like the whole like change levels with your up. Well, for me it was up and down D-pad. That was super awkward. I wish it would have just done it dynamically.
Yeah.
Like I wish I had like a 3D view. I could just kind of fly around and it automatically.
That would have been better.
You could a little bit because you could like zoom in and out and twist. And
but then they'd be dimmed because you weren't on the right layer, so you had to switch layers. So that I wasn't super happy about that.
But as far as the map design in general, I absolutely loved it, right? Like, I love puzzle games, and these ones had some good puzzles. I love games where you have to explore, and even though there wasn't a huge volume to explore, to find each of these little paths and nooks and crannies and ways to get around things and to unlock things, like, it felt very rich that way.
Well, and something, too, I felt, to again contrast it with Battlefront 2's campaign, is because of the puzzles and maybe because of those winding things and stuff, it kept you in one place long enough that you would appreciate little details. I felt like the Imperial bases looked like Star Wars, like it looked like the right materials and the computers and the storage boxes and the droids running around, and like everything looked like it should. And I don't know, being in there for enough time, like doing the puzzles and things, I felt like I appreciated that more than I did in Battlefront 2, even though that was also Star Wars. But you just run through it. I mean, it's very arcadey, and I don't know. It didn't. The Star Warsiness of it didn't hit me as much as it did in Jedi Fallen Order.
So while we're on the Battlefront 2, so me and Frosty played Battlefront 2. You didn't get to it.
I watched a summary of it. Yeah, I didn't.
Okay, great. Okay, here's where I'm going to draw a line here. Battlefront 2's campaign story, far superior.
And I completely disagree.
How? The whole story of this game is, okay, we need to go follow this ancient Jedi who's left us a holocron where all the younglings are. You go through all this, strife to get to it. And in the end, you're like, let's just kill it so the bad guys don't get it.
And I think it's wrong to focus on the holocron quest part. That's not the story. It's like the Magnificent Seven and all these stories. The story is the character arc of broken people.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a character out of Book of People who we never hear from again.
What do you mean? So Cal overcomes his severe traumas and inability to get past his guilt, right? Seer overcomes her struggle,
Selling out her Padawan.
and her struggle with the dark side, right? Captain Greez has to deal with his, checkered past and still be a lovable character. Marin has to deal with the fact that, she was decimated and yet still finds new meaning in life. And
all
then Malicos
characters
is the exact opposite, right? You see what happens when the choices overcome you and you choose to just embrace the negative sides of your life.
All characters who we will never see in another property again.
I don't think that's
but they left
obviously true.
They left it open to it. Like there could be another.
Sure, they could make a sequel of the game, but we know that in the future, none of these characters are heard from again.
In the distant future, well, semi-distant future, right?
Not really.
Well, I mean, you have how. Where do you draw the cutoff for there can be no Jedi?
So in A New Hope, Luke or Obi-Wan and Yoda are the last Jedi that we know of.
That we know of.
Sure.
Right? They don't make that
Ahsoka's
obvious.
alive and
Yeah.
Yes, but we're not hearing. We haven't heard from her at all, and even in Rise of Skywalker or Last Jedi or whatever the latest J.J. Abrams when he tried to fix the ship.
Sure.
I mean, I get it, and during the story, I was very invested, and I'm like, I love watching these people overcome these trials. I did, I loved it, but we've gone through all this effort just to destroy the holocron. If the holocron would have been destroyed during our last engagement, I would have been okay. I'm cool now.
So
I did want it to be destroyed sooner.
Because the point of the Jedi is not to back down from a challenge and back down from this could fall into the wrong hands and they could.
But it was two things though. It was that he didn't want it to fall into the wrong hands, and if he took it and raised Padawans, the Empire would still capture him, kill him, turn him into an Inquisitor.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Was his flashback or whatever that was.
Force vision.
Force vision.
Yeah.
Nothing's set in stone.
Sure.
That didn't have to happen.
Yeah, but I think he just realized Padawans are better off wherever they are.
Here's what I hated. Luke Skywalker in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, 8. Sorry. Goes in exile himself.
Right.
And me personally, I think that's something Luke Skywalker would have never done.
Sure.
I think he would have overcome the really crappy situation he was placed in and continued to fight for the good side, right?
Okay.
This felt just the exact same to me. It was like, yeah, we could try to do the right thing and try to get new Jedi and rebuild it. That's the whole point of this game. And let's just let the Force decide.
Sure.
I didn't like it.
But okay, so you're using Battlefield as a compare and contrast, right? So in Battlefield, they had a bad guy that was dead. And so instead of making a new bad guy, they go, you know what? We're just going to have this bad guy have made a hologram of himself that keeps being bad, right? And gives the orders to...
see once.
Yeah, but that's the entire impetus behind the continuance of evil, is this dead man's hologram, right?
And I also... half the missions in that game you're not playing as... what's her name?
And Versio.
Half the missions in the game you're not playing as her.
And we talked about this before, that this bothers us more than it bothers Klipper.
Yeah. And her switch to betraying the Empire felt really weak.
How was it weak?
A lot of people said that online, but as I watched the summary, it seemed pretty obvious that the very first mission they were having her do was to destroy the single thing that she was against the Empire doing, which was the satellites that were going to kill her home planet, right?
But it would have been stronger if they showed... because we turn the satellites on and it's causing storms.
Yeah.
But you don't actually see any destruction or any...
Yeah.
You don't see civilians dying everywhere or anything like that. There should have been something...
Because that was dark for a Star Wars game.
Or James Bond surfing the wake of an iceberg crash.
Yeah, okay. I think that's dark for a Star Wars game. But that was implied that was happening.
Then they did it really poorly.
So maybe I read more into the story, because for me it was a story of this person who had gone their whole life training to be what she thought was right. And her dad, I'm sure, helped her along the way. And she finally realized one day, oh my goodness, all these things that I've been doing my entire life were the baddies.
Yeah.
She finally got that, and then and then they asked, in one of the missions, they say, what do I do now? I've spent my entire life training to be this thing, and I don't want to be it anymore.
Yeah.
And to me, that hit really close to home, because I know people who have gone their whole lives in a career path or in schooling, whatever, and go, I don't want to be this. I thought that was super
Yeah.
powerful to me,
Yeah.
and I was like, wow, that's a cool story.
No, I absolutely agree with
I
that.
agree with you, but I don't think they executed it well. Like, I know that is the story, like, that is what happens, but I don't think... I think, yeah, taking the control away from her for half the missions is a huge thing.
Sure.
And her turn just seemed really quick, and especially when what's her friend's name, Dell?
Haskindell, yeah.
He, like, a big thing is him turning because he meets Luke and the conversation they have. Like, that's, like, a big part of it, and it's just like, he's not even the main character. Like, I liked Dell more than I liked her, and, like,
Yeah.
related to, like, his reason for leaving the
But I mean,
Empire.
they were so intertwined. They were Inferno Squad. They were like the
Sure.
group. I'm sure they talked about the things.
Yeah.
Maybe my brain is like filling in the pieces that the story didn't
I
do.
think so, but that's fine.
But for me, Fallen Order was probably the same way you feel about Battlefront 2's campaign. You know, I didn't think it was executed well,
Yeah.
and
We
just want
differ,
to
and that's
agree to
fine.
disagree, and that's
Yes,
fine. That's what's
yeah.
great about this
Sure.
is, but Battlefront 2, the dialogue felt more Star Wars than this did. Star Wars is campy, and anyone who tells you otherwise is wrong. Star Wars is campy.
Yeah, no, I agree.
There was some campy stuff in there.
Sure, there was a few campy things, but I mean, I know you hated the part where you were Lando Calrissian in that one scene, but Lando Calrissian.
Oh no, that was my favorite mission of that game.
It was hilarious because it was Star Wars. You know, it was like, hey, we'll improvise. And it's like,
I'm
and
not
then
saying that was a bad game. I just think story-wise,
Okay, that's fair.
I think is weaker.
the like the prompts of telling you what to do, mess with some buttons is like one of
Yeah.
your goals. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, you know.
And he just shoots it eventually.
Yeah, it felt very Star Wars to me. Not saying Fallen Order didn't. It
Sure.
was just a.
They're very different. It was when I played it, I was like, why exactly did Klipper want us to play this to compare? Other than they're both modern Star Wars games, but
See, and I guess I'm just different,
felt
but
like
I
they were-
thought the
they were
writing.
very different.
I thought the writing and storytelling in Battlefront was better.
Interesting. So I mean, I recently played Dark Forces 2 and Jedi Mysteries of the Sith recently, right? Those
Okay.
are all 97 and 98 games
Right.
respectively, right? But for me, up until now, those have felt the most Star Wars, right? They were big, they were exploratory, they were industrial, they were a little bit grimy, they were confusing, but they felt
Yeah.
palatial, they were large, right? And so this one again started to approach that. And so for me, this was one of my all-time favorite Star Wars games just because it felt epic, right? And part of Star Wars, even though it is campy, it is also epic. It is grandiose. It is large, right?
I felt that way too. Just the entire time, I was just like, I love how Star Warsy this is, and I love being in this game. The first time you were in the ship and you watch it in real time, take off from the planet and go into hyperspace, like in engine and everything.
Oh, yeah. That was really cool.
amazing.
That was
And the
I was
glass
just like,
bottom floor,
Yes.
brilliant.
And I was just
Yeah.
like, I love that they didn't do that in a cutscene. Like, you actually just watch it as.
Yep.
I love the
Yeah, in
take your seat, we're gonna land. Like it was kind of a fun
yeah.
way to do it.
There were so many moments of that where I just like that, where I was just like, I love that I get to see this and experience this. It was
Yeah.
great.
And I flew the Mantis around a bunch, just trying to figure out how that top fin and the engine worked. I'm like, so it turned, but it was actually rotating the engine,
Yeah.
and then it
And
like
it-
came back up, and the engine was over here now. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, they're rotating the engine.
That's how it lands.
And when you walked back there, you could actually see the turning mechanism.
Yeah.
You could see like the coupler back there. I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. Save spots, hated them.
The whole, like, when you rest and it respawns enemies.
Yeah.
I was actually okay with that. I was like, okay, there's a penalty for healing. I can take a penalty for healing.
Yeah.
Don't make me click a button to meditate to save.
Yeah.
Just do it.
I would have preferred it had, if you just touch it.
Yeah,
it
just
saves.
walk over it, it
You want to do
saves.
something more than that, interact. with it,
Absolutely.
That
Right?
would've been better, Yeah. Especially when there was one stretch, I think it was on Zepho, where I missed a save spot and didn't realize it and gone
Oh, yeah.
a really, really far apart and died and got back, now 2 spots away because I didn't find the one in the middle.
That happened to me
It
a
was really bad.
fair bit.
Yeah.
I just walking over it, doing a quick save, I would have been like, okay, I'm good with this. I thought the skills progression was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I loved how slow is your first ability, and I never used it again unless it was a puzzle.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I use slow all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
For enemy fighting?
Oh, yeah. It was great. You just, well, again, so when I started out on Jedi Master, right, like, it was like the only way to fight things. You would have to slow them because I couldn't parry them at the right level of
Yeah.
time consistently. And so I would just slow them, and then I could chop them, dodge out of the way. Slow them, chop them, dodge out of the way. And so you'd slow, and then you'd chop and rebuild your force, then dodge out of the way.
Okay.
Slow, chop, rebuild force.
And then
There
once
There were certain enemies I felt like it slow worked better on, like the Rogue One like droids.
Those were great.
Yeah.
Those were great.
That slow worked really well.
And then
yeah.
you get the ability to throw your lightsaber, and that's all I used.
Oh, really? I didn't use it that much
It
because
was so
didn't seem,
powerful.
Yeah,
It didn't
I
seem
It
that
was
powerful
so
to
OP.
me. I'd hit somebody and did you already have the lightsaber power upgrade at that time?
Yeah.
So I think I got throw the lightsaber first before
Oh.
I got that, and I was like, this is garbage, and so I stopped using it.
I maxed my saber and then did that one.
Gotcha.
And so the scene where pause, all of the bounty hunters that come after you, fantastic.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
That was so fun. Now,
Yeah.
is it the same spots for everyone, or is it
I-
just
I don't
random?
know.
I wanted to ask that. Like the first time I fought when I died, and
So-
they took me.
The only one I remember the exact spot is the duo that attacked me on Dathomir. The two like buddies that like the one's like flying around jetting,
Uh-huh.
and the other one's like a big mech.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was on
That's
Dathomir,
what I'm
close
saying.
to the temple.
Yep, that's where mine was.
I think so.
Okay.
And then there's one in one of the pits at the start of the place where you have to go. Sorry, I'm horrible with names, but there's a part where you have to walk up the slimy hill, and then you go
Oh,
into
yeah,
the main
Kashi.
temple. It was not on
Oh,
Kashyyyk.
no.
Oh,
Bogano.
it was Bogano. Yeah.
Bogano. If you fall into one of the pits at the start, there's a battle in there.
You mean Ogdo Bogdo, the big frog dude?
There's Ogdo Bogdo, but if you fall into one of his pits after he's dead, two more come get you.
Yeah. did
So
see
I
that.
never saw that.
Yeah.
I thought that was a fun little thing.
Right.
I enjoyed getting captured and forced to fight in a
That's
coliseum
what I wanted to ask though. When did that happen for you?
early.
Was it the first time you fought a bounty hunter?
Yes.
I don't know. I can't remember if it was the first time or not.
Because
I
it
felt
was
like
for,
I had felt
it was
fought
for
one
me,
already.
but it almost felt like the type of thing that maybe if you won that fight, they wouldn't capture you.
I didn't think you could win it because I was doing
That's possible.
I was doing fantastic,
Really?
and then suddenly they hit me with something, and I was done
It could be.
because I was doing fantastic
Yeah.
because I had my saber throw, so it's just like whom whom whom.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly when it happened for me, but yeah,
It's possible that it's always the first time you see them, but I don't know.
interesting.
Someone let us know.
Yeah.
Someone tell.
Well, the amount of Easter eggs and fun little things that they've tucked in here are a lot. I don't know how randomized they are, though, right? So, for example,
Yeah.
one of the Easter eggs somebody was showing online is that you can jump off of this cliff and like land in this little area that has a secret. But in there's one of those probe droids, right, that comes after you, and if you grab it with force pull, it will then, instead of making its normal like, it'll do the Empire March of like.
That's funny. I loved having BD1 be able to like take those over.
Oh yeah, that was
You'd
cool.
pull it over and you'd be like, "Wah!"
I really liked BD1. speaking
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
BD1. Like,
Fantastic.
That was a great mechanic, and Yeah.
dumb little like thing. Being able to paint him in colors, super fun.
Yeah. Well,
I liked the
he felt more
customization.
charming than the main character a little bit, right? And so
Yeah.
that helped a lot too.
yeah.
But
Wait, the character customization, like I can change my poncho. Okay. Painting the mantis was awesome.
I like being the Mantis.
Painting BD1
and
was
the,
awesome.
The lightsaber customization especially was great.
Yeah.
I guess I just didn't care about any of the cosmetics. Like I changed them a couple times. I was like, it's fine.
That was like the reason that I was like, I want to find more crates because I want my lightsaber to look awesome.
See, I kept getting frustrated because the crates just felt. I was like, oh great, orange, blue, green, right? Like it just felt like I've got another poncho now. I've got a slightly different skin on my lightsaber that I'm whipping around
Yeah.
in ways I can't even see anyway, right? Like I don't know. I just didn't care that much.
That is how cosmetics are, I guess. And I would say like even 90% of the stuff I found I never used. It was just there. But I liked finding them. I liked exploring, and I wanted the game to be longer, I guess.
Yeah,
Like,
that was my
just
main
finding them.
critique. There were not enough planets. Now, the
Yep.
planets that there were, there was a good amount of diversity among those planets.
Right.
They did great. But it would have been nice to have a lot more side quests, even if those planets weren't fully fleshed out, right?
Yeah.
Even if it was
Yeah.
like, hey, you fly to this place and it's, a quarter the size of a normal place. Or, it's mostly just a big scenic place with, mostly a flat arena type thing with a bunch of animals that are going to come and attack you over and over and over.
Yeah.
Or, just something to flesh it out a little bit more would have been nice.
I thought that, but I also, you get to the point of the game where you can go to like 4 planets, and I thought that was going to be it. And so when suddenly your saber gets destroyed, so you have to go to
Ilum.
Ilum, aka
Starkiller
Future
Base.
Starkiller Base, which was a really cool touch.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
That's
So anyway, like once you had to go there, I was like, oh, there actually are more planets. And
Yeah.
and then I also thought you were going to go to the vault on Bogano, you were going to fight the second sister, the Inquisitor there, and that was going to be the end of the game. And
Sure.
it wasn't. Like
Yeah.
you got to go to another planet like after that, and so
Yeah.
I liked that there ended up being more than just the original 4.
Yeah, it wasn't tiny. it just, but
But
it
there
wasn't
definitely
long
could have-
either,
yeah,
right? Like,
there could have been a bigger.
yeah. I mean, I didn't find every crate, but again, I found most of them. And I think my total gameplay time was right around 16 hours, which is a decent single-player game,
I
right?
was 28.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
13.
Much, yeah.
13. Wow.
I went really linear on this one because for me, I was trying to listen to a story. I was trying to follow a story, and like the other explory and findy isn't really my thing. I'm not a completionist. I'm not like a bounty hunter type dude.
And just cutscenes alone, like the people that have sliced the cutscenes and just put them online, it's almost 4 hours.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Just in cutscene. Huh. Because I was thinking, like thinking back on it, I was thinking there's most of the stuff you see like in engine, like in character.
Yeah.
But I guess there probably were a lot of cutscenes.
Yeah. And how was it robust-wise? Did it crash for you? Did it have lots of glitches?
Never crashed.
Eh.
Occasionally I would see stuff like floating in the air, just like assets, debris and stuff. Not a ton. Marin's clothes always wigged out.
Yeah.
Like her fabric, just
Interesting.
was always glitchy.
I didn't have a problem with her fabric, but I was falling in the floor a lot.
Yep.
Ropes were
Just through the floor?
yeah, like
Oh yeah, the rope.
Ropes
I'd be
were
like
glitchy.
halfway
Yeah,
inside of the
ropes were glitchy.
floor rather than on top of it. Yeah, the
Never saw
ropes
that.
were the. I
Sometimes-
shouldn't say really glitchy, but
Big
frequently glitchy.
I'd fall and not die, so I'd fall and like be stuck on a cliff, just like
Oh really? Yeah,
which you
Edge
exit the
detection.
game and
yeah. Edge detection was real bad. I could always hop my way back up. Usually, I would just keep rabbit hopping until eventually I got on top.
I crashed at least once each time I played it.
I crashed. Oh,
Really?
each time you played it.
Wow.
I crashed a lot.
Well, so I guess it depends on what your definition of crash is. The launcher worked for me exactly once. I had to kill it every other time. Now, as far as in-game, it crashed, I think, 4 or 5 times.
Every time.
Which was not fun. And especially since sometimes it would crash in, like, important places. I think at the very end when I was on Noor, it crashed, like, halfway through my battle there. I was like, oh,
Oh, dang.
Dumped to desktops. I'd get just dumped to the desktop.
yeah.
That never happened to me. Were you guys? Did you have it through Origin only or through Steam?
I had it through Steam, but it runs in
still-
Origin.
Origin.
Through Origin.
Yeah.
But you were Origin only.
Original.
Huh. I wonder why that would be.
And I mean, I am
AMD.
running a new rig, AMD. Were you on AMD?
Well, my Ryzen.
Okay. I wasn't
1080 Ti, like I always did.
Yeah.
I was playing at 2K HDR Max Ultra, and I was seeing performance problems. And
Oh, really?
Performance problems where my graphics card wasn't maxed out.
I didn't see any performance.
Like my
problems.
frame rate would drop to the 30s and 40s, and my GPU power was at 70%.
Weird.
It could be my rig, could be my
Sure.
optimization, but I mean, my rig's pretty robust. That was the only game and modern game I've had issues with. Was I pushing it too hard? Maybe, I don't know.
There's only one program that causes my rig to have problems, and that is Microsoft Edge, which I use I use different browsers for different things, and on
Right.
that rig, I have that as my like dedicated uploader to my YouTube channel, and so I was uploading in the background, and that was the only time that I had frame rate issues because just it running in the background was enough to destroy the rig.
That's funny.
So glowing endorsement of Microsoft Edge if you just really want to max out your CPU.
There you go.
Amazing.
So before the next topic, we're going to pause for 1 second. Hello there.
All right, where did we leave off?
Thank you for saying it that way.
You're welcome.
All right, where did we leave off? I don't remember what happened when just before the Sith Lord appeared.
I think the Sith
no.
Lord, these are Obi-Wan robes. And
Oh,
these are
sorry.
like perfect, actually.
Okay.
My sister made these for me. They are quite fantastic.
Hero quality.
Which, yes, I did have to pause the recording of the podcast just to go put my robes on. Anyway,
Was that why?
that's what we're going to go with.
So I was looking through my notes. I didn't want to miss the bouncy plants on Keshi.
Oh yeah, those were kind of
That
fun.
was like one of my favorite parts of the game was like sliding and then bouncing. And then
Yeah, that was
doing all
fun.
that.
And especially when we finally got the double jump. Like,
Yeah.
the double jump made life so much better.
Yeah, it did.
So I cheated a little bit because we waited quite a bit to record this episode. I went and watched Frosty's podcast, or Frosty's gameplay,
playthrough.
right? And the whole time I was sliding down the things, I was singing that stupid SSX Tricky song in my head.
Yeah.
And then he actually did that joke. I'm like, oh my goodness. It's like he like read my mind and he's like,
I was just like, how could that's like,
It's exactly what it felt
because
like.
I think too the first time you're sliding, it's in the snow, and so it was just like this is like snowboarding.
Not the very first time. The very first time is on before you meet up with Prof.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, there's like a
There's
little
a short
garbage
one.
chute.
Oh, yeah.
thing. But yeah.
I take it back then.
But there were a lot of cool sliding ones. My favorite one was the ice with the gears that you had to like
Slow
freeze
and
as
jump
you hopped
through.
through them.
Okay,
That was
yeah.
so fun.
I died so many times.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I think I made it the first time. I was just like, woo!
No, I died
Those were
many times.
The fight with the ATST was
Mm-hmm.
really, really good.
Taking control of the AT-AT.
That whole
was
sequence
cool, too.
That was fun too.
That actually maybe is the best part of the game. Like climbing up it is really, really cool.
All right, but did you climb up it because you're smart, or did you climb up because you're lucky? Because I climbed up it stupid. I just got to the first lake. There's a bunch of vines there, so I climbed up, and I couldn't jump to any of the other vines. Kept trying and trying and trying and trying. And eventually, I like switched legs and was like, oh, yeah, I can jump from here.
I think I know what you mean because I did the same thing. It looks because there's vines hanging off the head, and it looks like you have to jump to the head.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought too.
Because the ones to the right are like set back in, and it doesn't look like you would line up with them, but
Gotcha.
you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that I remember that throwing me off.
Yeah, I was like, oh, maybe I have to jump from the knee. When the knee's up, I'll jump to the head. No, okay. Yeah.
But it was kind of fun.
But I really like that whole sequence.
And I liked the swimming, and I liked that I liked the shift, or not shift for you, but the sprinting in the water, right?
Oh yeah, and then actually like getting a breather thing so you could dive underneath. Like
that was
it
cool,
made,
too.
Like more stuff to explore, and
Yep.
that was great.
Though one of my crashes was underwater. Like
really?
I think there was just too much going on. It freaked it out.
I crashed all the time, so I couldn't even narrow it down to one.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever get stuck on a puzzle?
Unfortunately, I did, and it was the one where you were melting the crystal on Ilos or whatever Starkiller base. I couldn't see the plug to plug in the rope.
Oh.
okay.
I'm sitting there carrying around going, I need to plug this in somewhere, and I looked everywhere. So when I play games, I actually try to be honest with the slider, where it says make sure you make it so it's the colors are right.
Oh, the brightness.
Yeah, a lot of people blow out the brightness to make games easier.
I don't blow it out, but I do go a little higher than it says, just because I've had too many experiences where something was invisible.
So I did it right as it should, and I'm playing in HDR, so things are blacks are dark and lights.
Okay.
I just couldn't see the plug,
It's too
and
bad.
so I googled. I'm like, well, how the heck do I beat this? And like, oh, plug in this plug. I'm like, oh, it's
I got stuck, I think, on like the very first puzzle, and it's because I kept trying to figure it out. I'm like, I'm missing something here. Well, I guess I'll just leave, right? And I was like, oh, you do have to leave. Like, for some reason, I was thinking the puzzles were like self-contained in a small area. It's like, no, you need to go somewhere else and then come back later. Like,
and I was never.
Yeah, there was a bit too much of that where you could, get to an area and it looked like maybe you were supposed to progress,
but you didn't have like push yet or pull or
yeah.
And I didn't like going on Bagano or whatever it was called up to the thing and say, you can't do this yet. Come back in a minute. I just hate that thing in games.
Yeah.
That I don't know what you call that trope.
backtracking. That's what I call
they
it.
could have done a better job of like actually blocking stuff off until you could get to them or something.
Because I got there and it was like, you can't do this yet. Oh.
But there were, or having an actual explanation for. I don't know how they would do it, but like you can't open this until you can push it or pull
Right,
it. Like,
sure.
But, I don't know.
And the map
there
was
wouldn't be a way to
good.
know that.
The map would show it red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was saying, hey, you can't do this ability, and that's what I ended up relying on.
Yeah.
Not being able to open my map underwater was super annoying.
Oh yeah, I guess I did notice that. Yeah, because it's BD that the map comes from.
Yeah.
I also didn't like the fact that I had to refer to the map frequently because, again, as somebody that does a lot of video editing and is going to be putting footage down here below a bunch, right? Like, that's going to be really interruptive. Every time I pull up a menu in a system, I have to, like, slice the video and smash it back together, right? And these maps, it's going to be the same. Because I pulled that thing up all the time. I was like, oh, that's going to be a nightmare to edit.
Just leave it in and enjoy it.
I might, because, it's just hard to slice out.
Yeah, and I hope my negative criticism don't say I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I absolutely enjoyed the game.
Yeah.
And please keep making single player experiences because it was so much fun.
I really hope they make a sequel to this.
And big budget ones where they actually pay for writers and staff, and right, like, I mean, this was a big single player game.
Good voice acting
Yeah.
throughout, and like everything was well done, and I'm glad it wasn't disappointing because that would have been really sad if it had been.
I was a little disappointed just in the fact that I had Darth Vader spoiled for me.
Oh, really?
I didn't.
One of the game's trailers like
I
had
saw
Vader in
people
it,
upset about that.
and I was like, oh,
Yeah, because it was a total surprise to me.
Yeah, I
didn't see it
was
coming.
geeking out. It was so fun.
And
I was nervous though that we were gonna like have a battle with Vader. I was like, that'll be so stupid. And then as soon as you start running, I'm like, yes, this is how you do Vader.
Yeah, well, and because too the fight with the girl right before that is so long. And
Yeah.
like that was really really tough. Like the hardest fight in the game for
Yeah.
sure. Mm-hmm. And then it was just like, oh, now I have to fight Vader. Like I have no health left. Like like this is gonna be tough.
I
And
died
it's
the
just
first
nope, I'm gonna run.
6 times.
On Trilla.
No, on Vader.
Oh,
Because
really?
I couldn't see that thing glowing that I had to pull.
Yeah, that took me a few tries.
And
didn't-
I tried to fight him a few
Yeah,
times. I tried to
yeah.
hack him. Like, what am I
didn't
supposed to
get what I was
do?
supposed to do.
And then finally I saw the glow. I'm like, oh.
I think I only died once, and for the same reason. But
And it was the whole Matrix thing where it's like, what happens when you see an agent? You run.
yeah,
Like it's exactly what it felt like.
I liked that was the response that we can't beat him, so we're just gonna go.
yeah. And I liked Vader stabbing you with your own lightsaber. I thought that was a pretty sweet move.
And I thought I thought Seer was gone.
Yeah, I did too.
And
which was surprising because I was like, oh, it didn't look like she was really dead. But then when you like bail and you say she's dead, I'm like, oh, I guess she is dead.
And I love how anticlimactic the death is too. If she
Yeah.
didn't stay dead,
Yeah,
but if she
yeah.
did, and it was just, boom.
Yep.
That's like the ultimate like bad guy move. It's like, yeah, your big mentor, it was nothing to me.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I liked that whole sequence, that whole level, like the part with the dojo where the floors moved and you could just toss the guys into the pits.
The
was
bad
great.
guy disposal.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like you went to the
That was great.
pit.
But then it all comes down and closes. It's like you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I almost thought it was like, oh, it knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
See, I was starting to chant like the Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, like, no, shoving the guys in.
Kalima.
And I played Ring Around the Rosie with them sometimes too, just for fun. Like there was this one guy chasing me. I just kept being like, and portion.
The security droids were so comically like just funny to me because they
Yeah.
they do that big hug move where they
Oh,
tried to
yeah,
hug
yeah.
you, and I was like, these are hilarious. Like
like
I'm
finding
not
that.
scared by these. I'm just laughing.
Though they were pretty tough, especially the room that had like 5 of them or whatever.
Oh
like,
yeah,
there was
right
some
after you
fun
build
there.
your saber on Starkiller Base.
Oh yeah, it was right before you actually see the trench.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a bunch. That room, I was like, ah. But I ended up running away from them, healing up, and then going back and fighting them because I was like, okay, I now I know what's right out here. Oh, that's a stupid thing on my part. I didn't realize that stims regenerated at those spots because
Oh, really?
I found that extra stim like really early in the game. That like extra, but it's an extra stim slot.
Right.
I thought it was an extra stim. I was like, oh, when I use these things, I need to find another one. So I didn't use a stim until like almost the end of the game.
Even though it
Wait,
says
you didn't use a single one?
Because I was like, these are a rare resource. I gotta hold on to these for like the serious battles.
here goes Cynic and his hoarding of items. Like we
Yeah.
see this in every time we
Yep.
play a game.
I don't know how you.
It was
I
horrible.
don't know how. Yeah.
I can't remember.
Which again, that helped. That's part of the reason why I eventually stepped down to story mode because I was dying, but I never used stims. Right? Like
Wow.
you
One of
had
the
to
online
one-shot it.
cartoons just did a joke on that. Basically, it's like, okay, these are powerful. You need to say, okay, hoard them like dragons. Got
Yes.
it.
And yes, I am that guy that in Skyrim has like a crate full of potions that are each worth like 1,000 gold. And I'm like, well, eventually, when I run low on money, I'll come back here and sell them.
Half-Life 2, you're using the Glock the entire game. Even though your MP5's full of ammo.
Yes, I do that a
Can't waste
lot.
these rebar.
Yeah. And like every time there's a zombie, I'm like, oh, pull out the crowbar, pop, 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 pop.
Or I'm just like Captain America, just throwing ammo at it like it's going out of style.
Oh, I'm always terrified of running out of ammo. I
Well,
think
in
I had a
some
bad
games that
experience.
happens.
Yeah, I had a bad experience with that early on in my gaming career, and since then I'm like, hoard it. But,
I can see that. Yeah. No, I was popping stims all the time, and that was one of the advantages of finding all the crates. Is by the end of the game, I think I had 10 or so.
oh wow.
Yeah. So it was just like each battle, I'm just like chugging them.
I did like that, and that was a fun mechanic for a heal. I'll do that. Throw me a Bacta spray or Bacta stim or whatever.
See,
And
I-
it didn't heal you a ton.
No.
Yeah.
You could level that up, but
Yeah.
even then, like it still never like filled you all the way up.
I think the first one I used was my fight with Malicos. Because I was like, okay, we're finally at like a serious fight. This is where I'm using the stims.
That is so
And then they
funny.
regenerated, and that's the first time I noticed. I was like, stims regenerated.
Hoard them like dragons. Got it.
It's so sad.
I just can't read, apparently. And it's at the beginning of the
may not
game,
have
right?
told
It's
you.
like, well, it probably did. And every time you heal up, it says stims regenerated, but I just didn't read it, I don't think, right? Because I just assumed I knew what it meant, right? It's like it blocking at the beginning of the game. The very first guy I had to like block and hit with his own bullet, I just died for forever. I'm like, I can't, it's not block. It won't hit him. Like,
And it should have said parry. Like, it should have been more clear. I'm like, you need to parry.
well, when I went back and I played it the second time, I just let myself die. I went back and then it gave me the prompt again, right? But at some point when you've been blocking for 5 minutes, it should like repeat, like, hey, dummy, we told you you have to block at the last second. Oh, right? Like, got it.
I did think it was funny how many times, like, there'd be the part where you had to crawl through, like, skinny areas, loading screens? Is
I
that
think
what they
so.
were?
I think so. Like maybe 3/4 into the game, it like clicked in my head, like I'm having to climb through these things a lot, and it's kind of annoying, like each time, or like how much you have to do it. And from then on, I was like super annoyed by it.
Yeah.
See, and that's what I thought. I'm like, oh, these got to be loading screen, because when you first started, my SSD, when I play games, I've got my system monitor on my left monitor showing what my hardware was doing, and my SSD would peg and be done. And so I was loaded, but it still had to play that whole animation
Gotcha.
because I'm sure our console friends would still be loading it, right?
I accidentally installed this one on my spinner, and then I couldn't switch it over easily. So in Steam, you can switch it over easily. And so I was like, oh, I'll just switch it over. But then since it was like the Origin back end, it was like having none of it. And I was like, whatever, I'll just play it off the spinner. But
Because and then I'm like just watching it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I've got freaking Mass Effect elevators again.
well, some of them were super long. There was like one where it was like a series of steps down. And then I realized, oh, I'm here? I don't want to be here. I want to go back. And I had to go right back up it again. I was like, oh, this is horrible.
It would have been hilarious to have like BD scrape on things. He's like, oh, sorry, buddy. Did you know you had a dedicated button to ask how BD was? Mm-hmm. It's like how you doing, buddy? It's like,
I did know that, and it's because it was R. And R is a button that I am like neurotically programmed to press
to reload
my lightsaber. Yeah. And so all the time in my gameplay, you'll be like, "Hey, you doing, BD?" Every time, every single one of those was me going, "Oh, I should reload."
I think I did it just, I don't know, either by accident or like trying to scan something and not actually being up to it to scan, because it was the same button for scanning.
That's true.
And who doesn't love gonk droids?
I love gonk droids.
Aren't they great?
They're just like the dumbest looking things. Like they look like trash cans. And
And every time I saw an R2 unit, it was destroyed.
Every time?
Every time.
I didn't destroy them until fairly late in the game. Like, I destroyed one on accident, and then I realized you could scan it. And I'm like, well, then you just rewarded me for doing that, and now they're all going to die, right? Like, because I was trying not to kill random things, right? Yeah. So, like, on Dathomir, when Marin, you talk to her enough that you realize, oh, she's not, like, a bad person, right? And then she raises up all the corpses of her sisters, right? And so I didn't kill a single one of them. Because I'm like, no, I don't want to piss her off by killing her undead sister. So I was like double jumping away from all of them. I like, as soon as I realized she was even possibly good, I think there was twice earlier on when I was on Dathomir, I think she raised up some of them and I killed them then. But as soon as we'd had like a dialogue, I was like, no, I can't kill these. And so I'm like hopping away from them. I'm like, this is not, it's going to like make me an evil Jedi or something.
You played this game so weird. Not you.
Well, but like, did
in
you
Jedi
play
Outcast.
KOTOR?
Well, yeah, and
Right?
and Jedi Outcast.
Yeah,
was the
like
same
if
way.
you do any of those bad things, like it dings you down. I was like, oh no, LucasArts is gonna ding me. I gotta be moral.
No, I saw an R2 and I'd pick it up and toss it across the room. Wow, makes the noise and everything.
Like,
It's like,
throwing them at people.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
you are a projectile R2 unit. That's what you are.
That's funny.
For my,
Would it hurt
survival.
people when you threw that
Oh,
at
yeah.
them?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you could like kill the normal stormtroopers just in one shot.
I did laugh though. We've lost all of our range stormtroopers. I'm like, yeah, because I cut all their arms off. Which, no dismemberment, ever.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was
Yeah.
cutting in half sometimes.
The droids.
The
You couldn't
droids.
do it
Oh, yeah?
to
You couldn't do it to stormtroopers, which you could do in the other Jedi Knight
The
games.
slugs would chop in half, and goats would chop in half.
True.
But
yeah.
never a humanoid.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think all the humanoids, they're like, no,
Interesting.
we can't do this because
All right.
we want to be rated teen, I guess. I don't know.
Even though I've got an extremely hot blade of death that
Yeah.
would definitely, okay.
And I guess they did humanize the stormtroopers a lot, right? Some were like, "Oh no, I'm gonna die, I can't do it." And the others are like, "You can't kill me." I liked that aspect where they had different personalities. That was kind of fun. Not tons, but
The rocket troopers, I was just like,
well, because you don't have push at first, right?
No.
So I tried like slowing it and rolling away, right? And I'd still die. And I'm like, okay, I guess I just have to go real fast, run past everybody, and go kill the rocket guy first. And then as soon as you get pushed, you're like, oh, this is clearly how this is supposed to be. But like, I don't know how you were supposed to do it without push.
I mixed up push and pull all the time, so I'd have a rocket flying at me, I'd be like, come here! Oh,
I want you here faster.
That's funny.
Undead.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that, even though they were 2 and 3. Like, you'd think I'd mix those up, but I think it's because you learned it first, second, third, and so it was just like, oh, the second thing I learned. Like, but, yep.
I think that's pretty much all I had to talk about.
Yeah, I think we about covered it.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of Easter eggs, lots of fun little things, but there's
Yeah.
too much of that to cover exhaustively unless we're going to take notes like crazy.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
look those
you
up.
can
There's
see
tons of
that,
compilations
but-
of them. I looked up some. They were really fun. But-
And as far as like value of the game, is it worth buying? Yes. Would I pay $60 for it? Probably not. I don't think it was a $60 experience.
I was happy to, and I did like it enough that I'm pretty sure I will go back and play it someday.
Yeah, I'm sure someday I will. But again, like by the time I will play it again, it'll probably be selling for $5, right? Because that's
Yeah.
the way the game industry is right now. And that's why I generally don't buy new games, is because I'm like, I'll get it for $3 to $5 in like 2 years. Like you don't even have to wait that long, right? In a year, it's going to be
Well, I've already.
$20, right?
I've seen it discounted to $35 already.
Yeah,
Good.
and I got it for 40-ish, and I felt okay about 40-ish. 35, I would have felt real solid.
I'd say
about that.
30 to 35 in
Yeah.
there, perfect amount. 60, a little steep.
It's-
For 13 hours. For someone like me who runs through a story,
Yeah.
if you're a completionist and you're going to see every nook and cranny, yeah, probably better.
And I mean, the crashes, I don't know, like maybe for you that sways you a little bit more toward the expensive side. When a game crashes that much, like it really bothers me when it crashes, and especially when you can't save frequently, right? Because in a game where I can just mash the save button over and over again, fine, crash all you want, I'll just load
protect
again,
yourself
right?
against it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because normally I don't like to do that, but once a game crashes a couple times, I'll just mash that save like
Yeah.
as often as I can, right?
And when you can't,
When you can't, a crash is really irksome.
For sure. Especially if you are trying to stream or record footage and
Yeah.
you have to
Yep.
just deal with the technical issues, but also just replay a part that you've already played. And,
Yeah, that was a problem.
yeah.
but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
I definitely recommend it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean-
Especially if you like Star Wars.
Exactly,
It,
yeah.
It is really enjoyable.
I say go play Battlefront 2 and compare and contrast.
And I say go back and play Dark Forces 2.
It's so old at this point.
And I say go
love
back
it.
and play Super Empire Strikes Back on the original NES.
No, Super Empire Strikes Back was the Super
Oh,
Nintendo
you're right.
version.
You're right. My
It
mistake.
was just Empire Strikes Back. But yeah. I
No,
like that
go
one
back
too.
and play the original Vector X-Wing game in the arcades.
Ooh.
Which
But-
they have
oh.
one in Vegas.
Yeah.
And they actually have a buy a home one now. They have like a home with one-up consoles that you've seen
Do they have
around.
it in VR?
Oh, I don't seen it in VR, but that'd be great.
And buy yourself a bundle of all the old Star Wars games on GOG and on Steam when they go on bundles.
They're like a nickel.
Like I've done
Yeah.
so many times. I own probably 3 copies of every one of those games. But
Go
they're
play
so
Rogue
worth it.
Squadron. It's fantastic.
Rogue Squadron's
And better than
I
Racer.
don't have it on PC, I don't think.
Really?
Yeah.
I
got
think I
on.
do. I think I have all of them. Again, multiple copies. So
Yeah.
you can come to my house and play them.
Yay.
So, looking forward to our next game.
Oh, yeah.
I am looking a lot forward to our next game. It's one of my favorites of all times. It is Black Mesa.
Oh,
So-
I was like, is it what I think I'm thinking?
Yeah,
Yeah.
think, we talked about it.
No,
Well,
yeah,
we
Half-Life.
kinda did, but I don't know if we finalized that's what we were playing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Half-Life
good.
is like one of my favorite games of all time.
Absolutely.
And Black Mesa is so true to the original source material while just adding better things, right? Like it is so fun.
So,
I'm
fair,
excited to play it because I
I
haven't
played-
even like seen footage. Like I haven't looked into it at all. And
So
so,
I
But you
played
played
the
Half-Life
beta.
1, right?
yes.
Okay.
yes.
you played Half-Life 1.
I just want to make
Don't
sure.
insult the man.
Just
Well, you have
clarify.
to play too.
because I don't want the fun to end.
But Alex is coming out now, so you can.
I
You can
think
play
I
2
can
now,
now.
yeah.
Thanks, Thomas the Tank Engine.
Which somehow I own Alex, even though I've never bought it. On Steam, it says you own this game. I've never bought it.
So, Cynic, when
They reward you because
Well, yeah.
you spent.
I wonder, right?
when
Like,
Valve realized, they're like, okay, this guy Cynic has literally spent a year's worth of most salaries in Middle America.
that's not true
You know,
at all.
Yes, it is.
I have like 2,000 games in Steam.
Yeah.
But my average rate of a purchase is like 75 cents.
Okay, let me
That's
just.
that's still just enough games where they would be like, yeah.
He just gets it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Have
how
a
many
game.
copies of Half-Life do you own?
Oh. That's a hard question to answer. So I mean, I have the original
some
disc.
copies that I have never done anything with.
I have the original disc. I have it on all 3 Steam accounts, and I think that's it. I don't think it's on GOG, so I don't have a copy there. So just the 4, and then on Half-Life 2, I have 2 copies of Orange Box, and then I think I actually picked it up for Xbox as well. just because it was like at DI for like a nickel, and then
That's
I
a
have
thrift
it,
store for all these outside of Utah.
and then I have it on all 3 Steam accounts.
So they basically, Gabe Knowles said, hey, this guy in Utah, just give it to him. So
Which I deserve it too, because I got flagged for piracy on Half-Life 2 back on my first copy of Half-Life 2 when I was in college, because I played it in my college's firewall, and that flagged it in Steam as piracy, and that whole account got frozen. I didn't resurrect that account until years later when they finally unflagged it.
Huh. Weird.
So I have the original discs
I do too.
for Half-Life, Blue Shift.
Oh, I don't have the original discs for those.
What was the other one? Opposing Force.
Opposing Force, yeah.
So I have the original disc for those, which if you type the key in, it just pops into Steam,
Yep.
which I thought was kind of awesome.
And then this probably don't run anymore.
Yeah, probably not at all. So
Mine do.
Really?
So Black Mesa is obviously a fan-made remake of the original source material. I played the beta several years ago where it stopped where the game should have stopped.
No, I disagree.
We're going to have another argumentative episode
we are.
because Zen is crap.
We will talk about it then.
Okay, so Black Mesa, pick it up, get disappointed with Zen.
Hooray.
I love it. So, yeah, I'm excited. Anything else?
It'll be fun. I think we're good.
Sweet.
Okay, see you
Catch
later.
you next
May
month.
the force be with you.
What was one of the Greez's lines that he always says at the end? Not at the end, but he always says,
Take some
weirdo.
seat.
Take some seat.
You weirdo. I like just you weirdo.
Yeah, and plant some random plants in the mantis, because
Yeah, that was
I
weird.
guess.
Makes things pretty.
Sure.
So be pretty, like the mantis.